Chief Justice Raymond Zondo will, for the first time as chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission, sit for interviews of 28 candidates for 11 vacancies in the Superior Courts. These interviews will take place from tomorrow, ending on the 8th of this month. We speak to Mbekezeli Benjamin. He's with Judges Matter. Always good to see you, Mr. Benjamin. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. So I'd like to tackle your piece from the back, coming to the front, if you will. And you end off by saying these upcoming interviews may be the last attempt at salvaging the tattered reputation of a hugely important institution in our constitutional democracy. What should we understand about the reputation of the JSE?
Well, good afternoon and to the viewers at home. Well, over the last while, including just last month when we saw the interviews for the Chief Justice, the JSE has not been performing in the way that we would expect as the public. We were all cringing throughout those interviews. We were shocked to see some of the issues that were asked, some of the questions that were asked, and the ways in which the senior judges were asked. And so those kinds of things are something that we as the public should be concerned about. And we've heard a lot of people complain about how the JSE does its job. So coming into these interviews, we as Judges Matter are hoping that the JSE would have learned lessons from those mistakes. We hope that they will have committed themselves to change and that they will actually sit down and work on changing the way that the JSE does things so that it can deliver the promise that it was given in the Constitution.
You speak of change, and the process essentially starts today as they sit to discuss what they have called the JSE mandate. Judges Matter has proposed 3 reforms. What are they?
Well, the 3 reforms we have proposed are, the first and foremost is that the JSE should set a criteria for what it looks for when it interviews candidates. We as the public need to be assured that they are focused on the job of finding the very best lawyers to become judges in our courts. The second proposal is that there must be rules of procedure. At some points during the Chief Justice interviews, there was just screaming about, there was just anyone and everyone was heckling each other. That kind of thing should never happen. And so there should be clear rules. The third one is a code of conduct for commissioners. We understand that the commissioners come into the JSE representing the public, representing the legal profession, representing legal academics. They don't sit there for their own purposes. And so there should be a code of conduct which regulates how they behave. And if they fail to behave appropriately, they should be either recalled and someone else should be put in their place.
With this process of interviews starting tomorrow, what do we need to understand about it, especially in relation to Section 174A of the Constitution?
So the Constitution sets out the requirements that are needed for someone to be a judge, which includes that someone must be appropriately qualified, so they must have the qualifications and the experience to be a judge, but they must also be a fit and proper person, so that means their integrity, their ethics, they must be unquestioned. And then there is also a requirement in terms of Section 174 that the judiciary must broadly reflect the gender and racial composition of the country. And in South Africa right now is a majority black country and a majority women country. So the judiciary must try and align with those. So over the next couple of days, the JSE will be interviewing lawyers and judges to try and figure out who amongst them is qualified to sit on places like the Constitutional Court. Tomorrow, there will be 5 judges who have put themselves forward for the Constitutional Court, and all of them will be put through their paces on whether or not they are suitable for that job.
Let's speak on the candidates. So this round will seek to fill the 2 remaining vacancies, and you see this having huge implications.
Yeah, so this round is unique in that there are only 5 candidates shortlisted for the Constitutional Court. Now, the Constitution requires that the Judicial Service Commission send to the President a minimum of 5 candidates for the Constitutional Court if there are 2 vacancies like we have right now. So the interviews tomorrow will really be trying to figure out amongst those who can be disqualified. And according to our reading of the law, the JSE has to send that list as is to the President. So that means the ultimate decision on who becomes the next Justice of the Constitutional Court lies largely in the hands of the President.
What should we understand or know about the 5 candidates? Who are they?
So the 5 candidates are really experienced judges, and one of them is a practicing advocate in our courts. The 4 judges are Justice Mulimela, who is at the Supreme Court of Appeal, Justice Faiza Katrisi-Tilwane, who is at the Johannesburg High Court, Justice David Unterhalter, who is also at the Johannesburg High Court, and then there's Judge Owen Rogers, who's at the Western Cape High Court. Now, all of them have had a huge record in the judiciary. They've written some of the most important judgments we've seen in the court, and all of them have had an opportunity to act at the Constitutional Court. So one could say they are all ready for the position. Now, the difficulty is selecting who amongst the 5, or which 2 amongst the 5 will ultimately be sitting on the Constitutional Court.
And there are 3 vacancies in the Competition Appeal Court. You raise concern that the JSE has to date not explained why the Deputy Judge President of the Labour Court has neither been advertised or filled.
Yes, so this round is a really busy round. I mentioned the Constitutional Court. They'll also be filling judicial posts in KwaZulu-Natal, in Limpopo, the Northwestern Free State. Now, they won't be able to fill some of the positions that we believe are very important. The Competition Appeal Court is one of them. There are 3 vacancies. They were supposed to be shortlisted and interviewed now, but the JSE just said they're not going ahead with those. They haven't explained why. There's also the vacancy at the Labour Court, where the Deputy Judge President has been vacant for a number of years. They haven't really explained, the JSE hasn't really explained why that vacancy hasn't been filled. They say that there's a problem with the law, but we believe that the vacancy should still be filled while the problems with the law are fixed. So we are really disappointed in the lack of explanation over why those positions haven't been filled.
And that's just it. Is that unusual?
Well, it's unusual in the sense that the JSE should have come out and said, look, we are in this round, it's already a packed schedule. We will not be able to get to some of these courts, so we'll postpone them to October when they will sit down for interviews again. So we haven't really gotten that kind of explanation for the JSE, and I'm hoping that by the end of the week they will give that kind of explanation. It is unusual, and it is causing problems in the courts, because the Labour Court, for example, the Deputy Judge President runs the Johannesburg court of the Labour Court, and that is the busiest court in the Labour Court system. So when you don't have a person in charge of that, it has real implications for ordinary people who have their cases waiting there.